this is this cool thing. You may have heard of it or not. There's a company, and they did a deep scan of the Titanic. They did a photogrammetry thing, and they were able to capture the wreck as it is right now in unprecedented detail, and they were able to create a 3D model from that. This is the very first preliminary alpha, well, maybe it's a beta, I'm not exactly sure, of that data as a playable game. This is only 10% of the data, so this is pretty crude. So you pilot this little ROV thing right here, which I think is neat. And if you hit control, it changes weight. No, that goes down. Wait, see? Yes. But they have done both the stern and the bow. The only difficulty mode different changes that I can think of are it just gets harder to see anything at a distance. So this scan, this is exactly what the Titanic looks like now. This is not an artistic interpretation. This is 10% of the data that they have, so it's like the fine details aren't as fine as they could be, or I'm assuming will be. Anyway, let's get over to where I was going. Yeah, it's crazy. The level. I'm kind of flooring it here because I want to get to this point. There's the bridge. There's that door. Right there, right in the center of your screen. Exactly where it folded. That's crazy, so right where that camera was. Get away from the ship there. They haven't really done, like, in reality, the seabed around the ship is just littered with stuff. You can only get the finest, the roughest things. Like I can find like floor tiles, but no like other stuff. So this is exactly what the side of the ship looks like right here where it folded up. Look, it just ripped apart. So with this then, is that the inside? Is that the hallway going into the ship? Anyway, that's pretty cool. This is that side that we saw in that film. Yeah, look at the brutality of that fold, because you can see how flat it is here, and then it just zoop, and those two things should have been in line. There's the front mast, the foremast. The crow's nest just went missing at some point. What had been here when Ballard found the thing in '85, but it's collapsed more, obviously. That little round thing that's the door, they would have climbed up the inside of the mast to get up to the viewing port. Here are the loading cranes, still in position. Yeah, so when this thing was going down, this mast was just thrashing back and forth. If you look, almost everything up here is just smashed down to squished. There's the main telemotor, the various plaques. There you go, lifeboat davits, boat deck. You can see the lines where the nails or bolts were that connected the pine wooden deck. It's gone. This line of raised wood, that's right here, that's teak. That wood does not really rot underwater, so that is the level, the original level of the deck, where that teak is. Full disclosure, I enjoy Titanic stuff. I'm not really hardcore into like memorizing floor plans and all that stuff. I can't really tell you, you know which boat was here, and I know some stories about things that happened. People, as this part of the ship started going down, but a lot of times I don't really know the fine details. This is the right before funnel number 1. This grating right here is a refresher thing, and it leads to vents all the way down to the bottom of the ship. There is right here, right in front of us, would have been funnel number 1. There's another venting thing. You can see this thin metal is rusted away. That is, we are over the radio room. You see the roof is starting to cave in here, and there have been additional cave-ins as well. Parts of the ship have simply collapsed. This, of course, is what used to be the grand staircase. You can see, like, this used to be up at the level of the boat deck. It used to be that you could walk from here and just stroll along here. But this is the first class entrance. The entire thing collapsed now. So you can actually see right over here, that's the door out. And there we would be looking at the front of funnel number 2, right there. Anyway, long story short, I'm probably going to say wrong things or give incorrect information. It's nobody's fault but mine. Okay, and this is where... Oh, well, it's actually kind of a neat view. Kind of see where we are above the ship. Let's go back down. Oh, darn it, I keep hitting the wrong thing. And right there, that would have been... This is the collapsed... This would have been the very first level of the walking in and seeing the staircase. There would have been a staircase going down this way, and it would have gone down like so, down to the first platform and then down again. There's that lamp. Famous thing. You can see the sort of the crudeness in this photogrammetry. I mean, this is really, it's like Lara Croft Tomb Raider stuff. The day is going to come in the future when we're going to be able to get really, really accurate 3D scans of stuff, and this we'll look back on this and do it. Let me get out of here. Where am I? Okay, I'm looking forward. Now we're looking backwards again towards, that's the second funnel. That's the first class entrance down there. More with the lifeboats. See, there's another davit. This, what I'm above right here is sort of an open section of deck that was between the first class entrance and this floor right here, and this, which was the reading and the ladies' reading and writing room, was right here. It's like, I'm sorry, I keep wiggling. Right where you see my little pointer is going, right there was an arched doorway that went into this extension off that, the ladies' reading and writing room. I believe that was the one that was there. These big old things. Let me get turned around here. Back up some. Let's go drop. Yeah, you can see there's that grading again on both sides, just like the first one. These go all the way down to engineering, down in the bottom. What am I doing? I'm going down. So this is they're called a Scirocco fan. They're a big turbine kind of thing. There's the door. That is the growthed over first class entrance. This is a power winch. This was for, I believe, this was for the getting the boats in the room. The rest of this room, everything just collapsed. Yes, there's that first class entrance again, right there. This all collapsed. Yeah, I know, it's annoying. You can see the outlines here of some of the top buildings that would have been on deck, and there's just not much of anything left of them. Let's just go down to the end of the bow. You can see the layers of the decks. Just ripped the ship in half, all the way down to the bottom of the ship. There's a bank of boilers. You open these doors, and there's a grate that runs halfway across. You put coal in the top half, and the cinders fall out the bottom. And you pull them out the bottom and push them away. And there's 3 of those, and they had to be stoked constantly. Stoked, trimmed, cleaned. So, I mean, this looks bad, and with reason. This is a mess. I'm gonna make another video, and I can do the stern, and the stern is just like, it just came apart because it got the sides of its hull ripped off, I think, on the way down. And it really didn't have much structural integrity when it hit bottom, and it just pancaked. Look at the force. Look at that. Like a giant came up and just... Isn't that crazy? If you look around on the seafloor here, sometimes, if I'm looking, you can find floor tiles, and they have sort of a particular two-tone abstract. Isn't that a shot? So this pile of horror, this right here, this was the outside wall that you would walk by. This was the gymnasium, which when Ballard found it in 85, you could still look inside and you could see where things were. Now, there's the corner, goes up like so, and the whole roof ceiling has collapsed in. You would normally get into the grand staircase right through a door here. You could go right through into the grand staircase. Is this the elevator machinery room? No, that's a shore movement. We'll go back up over here. Yeah, this is a motor for moving the boats up and down. That's what that's for. You know, it'd be nice to see if you could see anything inside, but they didn't really scan into the darkness. I think this was Murdoch here, and Murdoch was the one who was extremely strict about women and children only when it is felt that the spirit of the order was women and children first, and he sent a good number of boats off that were not fully loaded because of this. And he agonized about it for the rest of his life. There's what's left of Captain Smith's cabin, I believe. It, too, was intact when Ballard found it, but he is gone. Yeah, look, this vent top is so rusted away that it's just, the sides fell over and it's all gone. Flying over the wheelhouse there. Looking at the well deck. I saw some of the interviews that were recorded in, I think it was the late 60s or the early 70s, and there was one gentleman, and he was a steward, I believe, and he talked about when it was still going down to the head, but this area had not yet gone underwater, that this forward well area, well deck, was filled with people, women, children, all kinds of people were filled here, panicking, trying to get off the ship. And he was one of the ones who talked about the ship taking a sudden lurch forward at a certain point. Like, it wasn't this grateful, slow, steady descent. It's like at a certain point something gave, or some pocket of air was gone, and the ship just went forward, and this whole area was flooded. The guy who was telling this story managed to get away and get up onto the ship, and he said all he could hear was just all the screaming of the people right here in this well done. roads. This section of rail is leaning forward right here, has since fallen down. It hadn't been like this until, I guess, a few recent years, and then the next time somebody went down, they found that it had in fact detached. So yeah, that section of rail right now is down there. Some people have suggested that it was the Ocean Gate people who were coming down here and acting cavalierly. That's what I've seen some people allege. There it is. Okay, I think that's going to do it for my first Titanic playthrough, so let me know what you think.